All right, a few programming notes before we get started with this interview is I've stopped putting up videos. I ran out of ones I'd recorded, and I don't currently have the bandwidth to be working on more. So, anyways, this is going to be the last Triple Triad video for a while. Probably not ever, but certainly the last for a while. And I wanted to end with something I thought was important and meaningful to me. And so, just briefly in advance. Um, my start on Triple Triad was not aware there was a chat service, the IRC chat. It was, not aware clans existed. The first time someone asked me if I was part of a clan, I said, "Yes, I'm part of a quest clan. Of course, I know what you're talking about." And then finally someone got through to me in the in-game chat, and I came on and I looked at the forums, and it was this whole exciting new world to explore. And so much of what was there was based around Kaus Debonair. So much of what was visible, so much of the history, finding the old occult fans and reading about what had come before, seeing what clans were there at the time. Divas was an aspirational clan for me for a long time before joining, and he was like the key member of so many of Triple Triad's great clans. So I had really been wanting to at some point send him the interview, but I wanted to save it for this big round number, like it will be the 30th interview or something like that. And then I ran out of Triple Triad energy, at least for a while. So I wanted to do this as the last video to stand for a bit, and I hope it's a good one. I skim through each interview to see if they answered the question of what they want as a background image. As far as I can tell, he didn't answer that, so I have picked one that fits his avatar on TTA. Hopefully, it works out okay. And yeah, let's get to it. Was there any other programming notes I wanted to say in advance? I did end up joining Divas, and Kaus was also the first. This is true for turds as well. For both of us, there's like this really pivotal moment of we had played Kaus before and lost to him, and the first time we beat Kaus in a tournament was kind of the first time we really believed in ourselves as players who had a chance to compete for tournament titles. Um, and yeah, so yeah, a very important player to like my time on the site and so many others. I've also mentioned, I think there's basically four outstanding names in Triple Triad history for affecting it on a kind of social and clan front and just how the site works. And so there's obviously Balls and Dalamar, and from my experience, Dalamar is the much more important of that pair, but obviously both incredibly important and kind of the two you have to mention. And again, from my experience, especially Dalamar. And then there's Kaus and Kamikaze, who I know I came to the site later, so I'm sure I'm missing people like Ace and others that were really integral to how it worked before that. But to my time there, Kaus and Kamikaze were the people organizing and the engines behind so much of what happened, and especially Kaus. So okay, let's see what he has to say rather than my babbling. But if I was doing a Legends deck and it wasn't about gameplay, Dalamar, Kaus, Kamikaze would be the first three I'd have on the list. And the thing is, if it is about gameplay, Kaus is still really high up on that list. And if it's about, like from occult fan to clans to just social interactions with people to people who identify, like you talk to Deli and Deli will be like, yeah, playing a lot with Kaus is a big part of how I got good. Um, there's just so much there. All right, so, okay, actual interview, not my babbling. We're 4 minutes in. That's not too much wasted time. How would you describe your triple triad play and or style? Defensive and unpredictable, or I gave some other options. Unpredictable. No, sorry, that's just, geez, I'm screwing this up already. Defensive and unpredictable. Unpredictable because as an exclusive card select hand maker, even I'm unsure of what 5 cards I'm going to end up with. Defensive for sure, though because I'm more pleased with a sure tie than trying something riskier. I am all for the minimize loss risk strategies in tournament play. Obviously, if it was league formats or something like that, it would incentivize different styles of play. But in elimination format tournaments, I think this is the correct attitude, and one I also am on board with. Also, respect to our card select betters. When I moved over to being a card select player, I my tournament results got worse. So I tend to take it as like a neat thing some players can do, but a handicap to be sure. Who is your most interesting opponent? Not sure what interesting means. It's interesting that I can't ever beat Cookie. Does that count? Now, if we go back to the recent tournament where Kaus made his finals run, see if I can bring this up. Sorry if it makes obnoxious clicking sounds. I try not to do too much clicking while in an interview because, you know, obviously you have to click a lot when playing. What was the closed tournament's name? Zidane, right? Kaus was the one to beat Cookie in the early rounds to put Cookie in loser's bracket. So there was one person that beat Cookie in that tournament, and it was Kaus. So I would argue there's a case that Kaus is the only person who could beat Cookie that one. Who is your toughest opponent? I still feel like I have my hands full with everyone I play. Still Deli all for me after the 20 plus years we've been playing together. I always enjoy it when two players both identify the other as someone really important to their playing and like someone they always find they have interesting competitive games against. What formation or move type do you like more than other players do? Speaking of Delial, in a recent game we played, I told him to enjoy the forced cavalry I put him in. So I suppose that's one I remember and enjoyed. There must be some meaning of forced cavalry here that I do not know or am not getting the obvious implications on. This certainly happens sometimes in interviews. I do think, I'm not sure this is relevant here, but because TTA, we all kind of learn it individually, and has been so little shared information historically, with like a little from Nimloth's articles back in the day, and a little from some other things, but primarily that. We all have our own phrases to describe how the game works, and sometimes we even have the same words, but we mean different things with them. What formation or move type do you like less than other players do? The ones that end up with me losing. Sadly, conversations and videos about strategy or formations have me easily lost. What is your proudest triple triad moment? Isn't this one obvious? I don't win Triad Wars 1. Sorry, I'm really stumbling over words today. Apologies. I don't win Triad Wars 1, and I'm just another player you probably forget about. So, the legend of Kaus like has to kind of as a player start and end with 2003. But he wins 4 icons in a single year in 2008, in one of like the great historical years 5 years later when he is mostly focused on clan leading operations. Just saying, like Kaus is a tale of two peaks, and without 2003, I probably don't pay as much attention to 2008. But without 2008, I don't pay as much attention to 2003. Like, if he just had 2003, he would be the person who won the first tournament. But there wouldn't be a ton else. We have some decent other ones right after. But it's 2008 that gives him these two peaks that puts him up above a whole lot of tournament winners. Um, so I just want to say 4 icons in a year is a very rare and impressive achievement. Should Delhi all be banned? Yes or absolutely? You're all dumb. Incorrect answer. The answer is obviously absolutely. What clans will always have a place in your heart? Easily the Divas. I probably should be pronouncing it Devas. I think that's how it's pronounced, but I'm going to keep getting it wrong every video, so, what can you do? When you all tried to get me to pronounce Kana's name differently, that was an absolute disaster, so there's clearly no point in trying to get me to say things better. Easily the Divas clan, because clans like KH taught me there's more to leading clans than just having the best players. It's probably not a fair standard for me to be holding the mantle of some of the quality over quantity projects and then turn away better players who couldn't pass a tryout. Which reminds me, tryouts are silly. Find players you enjoy playing with and form bonds instead. That's how I met Turds. I want to make a video about it, but there's a divide very early in Triple Triad that's Brotherhood of Seed and Apocalypto, and it becomes Brotherhood of Seed and Card Club. But it's sort of about how exclusive clans need to be. And and what that exclusion is based on, if there is exclusion. And throughout all of Triple Triad history, there are these clear divides in where different clan leaders stand. And one of my favorite things, which wasn't really a clan or anything, but was people may remember some joke posts on the forums, Rotundity, which was just me and 4 of the people I enjoyed talking with that also enjoyed talking with each other. I hope. just making a group of those players and sort of pretending it was a clan, but not really intending to compete. Now, obviously, Kaus's clans did very well competitively, but I think, yeah, building it around people you enjoy is a very good way to build it, and one you're not gonna build the same community as easily if your system of exclusion is tryouts. Player you think is most underrated. Delial. If he's not in your top 3 to 5, then you need a new list. Now, he is in most top 3 to 5s. I think he's been mentioned by a very large number of the people we've talked about, but that could be true and he could still be underrated. I think in one important sense, Delial underrates himself because he's always surprised when he does well in closed events, and he has one of the most, no, he has the singularly most varied resume of success across any format of Triple Triad of anyone you could find. When did you start playing and what was your favorite era? Over 25 years ago. Now, he doesn't say if, I assume that's when he started playing, but that doesn't say when his favorite era was, so you have dodged the question, sir. Favorite rule sets. Level 7-8 games get my attention if they're available. Good picks. Back in the day, I did a ranking, and I thought 7, 8, and 10 were the 3 best levels. But especially given how much 10 is played more than other levels, I can understand being drawn to levels other than 10. Like, I could imagine a person, I have no idea if this is Chaos, it probably isn't. But, like, I could easily imagine a version of myself where my favorite levels are 7 and 8 because I've overplayed 10. But if they were all played at the same rate, 10 would be up there with 7 and 8. Have you met any other Triple Triad players in person? Met Kamikaze and his then girlfriend, now wife, question mark. I think that's correct. When I was passing through Rhode Island. His New England accent led to a lot of mispronunciations of all you players. Well, that's good, because I am also from New England, and I will also mispronounce everything, so, this video can honor Kamikaze. Incidentally, Kamikaze, along with Kaus, was the interview I really wanted to get at the end of this run, and he has not responded to me. What a jerk. Go Kaus, boo Kamikaze. That's the main takeaway of this video. Kaus rules, Kamikaze drools, because only one of them will talk to me when I want to talk to them. Is there another question I haven't asked you'd like to answer? So, what don't you all know about me? I'm one of the more well-known, outspoken players on the site, and had my hands in everything at one point except graphic design. This is completely true. Everything on the site Kaus is not just like touched, but had major impact on. Here's some stuff you might not know. I once watched an entire Premier League match, go Chelsea, boo, while playing an open tournament match, and the Triple Triad match lasted longer, with no result. It's hard for me to comprehend, and helped me better understand why I have very little interest in Open in its current state. Pace of play is discussed as an issue in many sports. Take note of it here, please. Two quick asides. One is I think the work in baseball to shorten games, cut basically a half hour off, has been a huge success. And yeah, maybe is a good idea more broadly. Two, when Kaus got to make a rule set for Triad Wars, I want to say 14 in the semifinals, he made it 3 minutes, which was the first time had, I think, ever been locked in as part of the rule set. And I was in that tournament. I was still in. And I was really unhappy about it. But I was unhappy about it for a very, like, selfish reason. And, like, when something is selfish, you will come up with other reasons to justify it, but you can't really trust them. Because the core reason is often, this is bad for me. And humans are so good at rationalizing everything we like want to justify. So you will come up with other reasons when that is the case, but you got to be a little skeptical of them because they're often reasons you're coming up with to justify how you feel rather than actually good arguments against. And the reason I was really unhappy about it was because I was facing Akiyama and I thought, but he is better than me the faster the game gets. I think I have really good chances in a slow game. I do not like my chances in a fast game. And so if I had been playing Delial, who I think tends to be a slower player that was also very good at faster games, would I have been upset about it? Probably not. So this is probably like a me selfish hypocrisy issue, not an actual issue with it. But it was an interesting thing to mess with, and maybe we should have more conversations about doing that more broadly. I'm not sure. I I have some traditionalist tendencies, and if it's been 5 minutes plus till now, it should be 5 minutes plus forever. Anyhow, all right, let's keep going. My partner and I are gamers, kinda, sorta. I'm playing FF7 Rebirth at the moment, and he's playing Metaphor. Queen's Blood is an interesting game, but I still have no idea how to play Tetramaster from FF9. Yeah, so as have talked about in videos, have not touched Rebirth because I think it would make me sad. And I tried to look up how Tetramaster works at some point, the like dual attack types. That game is not well put together. I think the best players on TTA would beat TTX's best players, and it wouldn't be close. I think that's very, very likely to be true. Uh, but I guess I have two takes here I want to say, which is I think that's true. But I don't think it takes away from what TTX players did and figured out. And I think there's a version of it where people say modern players would beat previous players in any competitive field, and they are almost always right. Like House is just saying something that is just objectively true in almost any discipline you could apply it to, with some very narrow exceptions where like money incentives have done weird stuff. Like house building today is done for quantity, not quality. You know, there's specific fields where you could see differences where like greater workmanship is declined. But broadly in competitive things like this, things get better. But also that doesn't mean that the earlier play wasn't meaningful, important in getting there, really smart and capably figuring stuff out. I spent time playing TTO Equestria way back when. Did you? No. When it abruptly closed, where did all the players go? That site had a massive community. Was it all bots or some kind of pyramid scheme? Yeah, this is an interesting question because there are a bunch of other triple triad sites that existed, and they don't really exist now. Before TTA came back, Delhi all logged into a triple triad extreme, I think it was, and they instantly recognized him. They were like, "Oh, the unbeatable guy has returned, like the legendary figure who no one could beat." But not many of people from these places seem to have migrated over, even though TTA clearly has like the strongest and longest term player base. Um, it's interesting that other sites' disappearances didn't cause mini floods into TTA, which is a bit of a shame, I think. I used to ditch class to play TTX at the school library. I'm used to things coming easy to me. I'm a data nerd and mathematician at heart, so this game fits that slate. Then it wasn't easy anymore when many of you got all good at this game. It was really frustrating. Yeah, I get that. I think yeah, there's such a thing of like when something comes easy to you and suddenly it's difficult, and you also have all the expectations of when it was easy. And even if you're willing to like put in work, for you it's work again, right? For you, you have already had your early like burst of enthusiasm for the game when you were loved it and really wanted to think about it. And suddenly you're having to work, and these other players who are improving are still in their I am fascinated by everything about this phase. And it can be really hard to catch up to that kind of interest and affection and just feelings around the game if you're not currently in the midst of that. I think people forget how poorly Spitfire played in the Triad Wars 1 final, and I was just the benefactor. I'm not sure how. It felt like the whole site watched and crowned me as the godlike player, and then somehow gave me a pass when I never won anything again. But everything else happened after that. People aspired to join my clans. I certainly did. Topics I'd start or comment on in the old forum skyrocketed in activity. Balls made me staff. Twice! If there's another story of someone's entire profile taking off like mine, I'm all ears. I'm like the Bitcoin of TTA, essentially worthless, but speculative value off the charts. Once again, I think House is certainly underselling himself, both on his achievements, but also like things skyrocketing in activity was value in itself in a way that Bitcoin value is like not value for anything. Like a lot of community was built around Kaus that's really important. Some of it to this day, like there are people I talked with through Kaus or through Kaus clans that I don't think I'd be close to today if not for that, or it would have taken a lot longer to get there. Um, and there was also this thing, and maybe I shouldn't talk about it in the Kaus interview, but everything he said whether it was anodyne or like combative, whatever it was, whatever level of like controversial, it was controversial. People had opinions. People talked about it in chats. People who had like no personal interaction with Kaus had strong opinions on Kaus. Um, and so there are versions of that are really toxic, and there are versions of that are really lively. And at least from my experience, and I know some people would disagree, um, it was this like energeticness to the site that he brought. This version of opinionated that people had to take seriously and did so people cared, but not this version that in what I saw was like malicious or was was like controversy for controversy's sake. I don't know how to say this well. But I think Kaus made the site a more exciting place to be, as well as someone I personally liked. But he made it a more exciting place to be before I knew who he was, right? Or before like no, I knew who he was, but before I like knew him at all in person. I left the site for a decade because I never replaced my college laptop and I haven't owned my own PC in at least 15 years. Coming back into Discord after being gone so long gave me anxiety, but I'm thankful time healed some of the problems I left behind. A game I think is vastly overrated is Chrono Trigger. My favorite FF game is still 6. The handle Kaus Debonair comes from the Ogre Battle series. You should try it if you haven't. And I think that's enough. Feel free to use any all of it and add any commentaries you like. Thanks for saving the best for last in scare quotes. LOL. All right, a couple comments here. There was a big fight, sort of adjacent to my Blue Sky follows, but on someone else's, about Chrono Trigger and whether it's overrated. And this person had this utterly insane take, in my opinion, on games, which was the best game is the game that would take the fewest changes to make it perfect. So, like, if you thought a game was perfect, except the main character at the end goes, I'm a mass murderer and this game is pro mass murder, and like, I love torturing cats or whatever, like, that would be 30 seconds you have to cut and then you have a perfect game. So, that game is almost perfect. When I would look at that game and go, that game was designed to make people want to hurt people and is an evil, horrible game, right? But like, this attitude of the game would be, that game is really close to perfect. And that person was saying, and now you as the listener, guess, did that person like or dislike Chrono Trigger? And I may be remembering this wrong, so if I'm remembering it wrong, huge apologies. My memory is that person disliked Chrono Trigger because they were saying, but this doesn't make any sense. The argument was something, and I think it was the same person. The argument was something like, Chrono Trigger. No, maybe they were the person taking the other side. Now I'm all confused. But someone, possibly them, possibly someone else, was arguing Chrono Trigger does almost nothing wrong, but it doesn't do that much that's very ambitious or that good. Um, and I like a lot about Chrono Trigger, and so I definitely hold it in higher esteem than that person does. But I'm probably in a somewhat similar bandwagon of I think everything about Chrono Trigger is likable and nothing really stays with me in a powerful way from it. I think Frog probably has the most interesting arc. I know Piggyman, a person whose taste I really respect in games, really thinks Luca and Robo, especially if you do side quests at the end, have the most compelling scenes in the game. I also know Kaus came to Chrono Trigger late and played it fairly recently, and I'm always really interested in seeing what people think of games when they don't have nostalgia. I met a person, this I guess 5 years ago now, it feels very recent, who came to RPGs as an adult and went through all the RPGs as an adult. And his favorite game of all time is Xenogears. Um, but he went through a whole bunch of them, and it was very much, it was not nostalgia tinged at all. And some of them he was like, yeah, this just obviously doesn't hold up. I could see how people liked it at the time. Don't remember what he thought of Chrono Trigger. But back to Kaus. My favorite game is still 6. 6 is not my favorite. Of course, it's not about me. But I think 6 is the first game in the FF series that is a good pick to have as favorite. Maybe that's my hot take. Though I know a lot of Triple Tried people like 5 a lot. And I should try Ogre Battle. I love FFT. I should be trying strategy RPGs, especially the classics. Um, yeah, I think that's it. All right. So thanks for coming through this with me. Thanks to Kaus for doing this. Thanks to everyone who's done an interview for doing it, and thanks to the Triple Triad community for being wonderful all these years, which is not unrelated to Kaus being one of the singularly most important figures in it. All right. And hopefully someday I will talk to you again in a video.